Hulk Hogan at the National Republican Convention. Did you actually watch this at the time? Did you watch it after the fact?
Well, I watched it in real time. I did. And you want to know what I think about it?
Well, would you like me to give a quick... yeah, okay. Give me a minute. I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Something, brother.
I'll quiet it down a little bit. He does look good with the do-rag, you know. He doesn't look that different tonight, to 30 years ago.
There was so much energy in this room. I felt maybe I was in Madison Square Garden getting ready to win another world title. Or maybe I thought the vibe was so intense, the energy was so crazy, it felt like maybe I was going to press that no-good, stinky giant over my head and slam him through the mat, brother.
Hang on. Did he say Andre the Giant? Or did he just say the Giant?
The Giant.
I was in a room full of real Americans, brother.
You love this, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I do like it.
Leader up there, my hero, that gladiator, we're gonna bring America back together.
Right, I'm gonna skip it ahead. He's got a pillow on the side of his ear. Have you seen that? It almost looks like a bathroom tile. Right.
Trumpites.
Right. Okay. Trumpites. Trumpomania.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get to the T-shirt tearing bit for the video listeners.
And they tried to kill the next
There it
president
is.
of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Okay. That'll do. That's the main bit of it.
Actually, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that because Trump was a big friend of the McMahon family, and his business is in New York, Trump Tower, and that's where he was from too. And he's a big wrestling fan. And then he appeared on some WrestleManias, and Vince did a couple angles with him where Vince ends up getting his hair cut. And he knows Hulk, but he didn't ask the campaign, from what I understand. They didn't ask Hulk to appear. Hulk volunteered to appear. This was after Trump got shot. And when he stood there with his left hand in the air and he said, fight, fight, fight. And I mean,
that'll probably have won him the election, that, I think, straight away.
Well, the elections go back and forth. It's a little closer now. But I can't believe Kamala Harris went from 0% 4 years ago and only had like 28% before, when she was vice president, approval rating, and now she's up to 48 because she's ahead of the ticket.
Well, that's probably why Hulk Hogan got involved, because he heard Kamala was back, and he was going to.
Kamala, they had some big matches. But anyway, I enjoyed that, and the crowd, that was very receptive. That's one thing about wrestling. It is universal, and you got homeless people on the street liking wrestling, and you got billionaires liking wrestling. And I've said this before, when you get in front of a wrestling crowd, when you look out in that crowd, you're seeing America. You're seeing the people that make this country work, get up every day, pay their taxes, send their kids to school, follow the law, some of them, and they make the country work. But I enjoyed Hulk's interview. And now I'm thinking, has he gone full circle? Remember, he had that trouble, 7 years ago? Mm-hmm. And, everybody just disowned him. Well, you can disown somebody, but, that runs its route too. So I think he's back now. And I hope he's back. So Hulk's got a big mouth, and he says a lot. He stretches the truth a lot. So, but he's a pretty good guy.
What do you think?
I met him when he first started out. I made a couple of trips with him. I was in Florida, and when you make a Tallahassee trip from Tampa, Florida to Tallahassee, hell, that's a hell of a long way. So you got a lot of time in the car to sit and talk to somebody, get to know them. And he told me he was a musician and all this stuff, and he wanted to be a wrestler, and he was pretty cut up then, not cut up like he ended up later, but you learn a lot by from somebody by being in close proximity to them for several hours at a time.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn about Hogan?
Well, that he was a musician, and he wanted to, and he was a weightlifter, and I think he wanted to play pro ball, but he got hurt or something, and he wanted to get into wrestling, basically, and that's what I learned from him. You
also said once, I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, that you said that he was so boring and that you just wouldn't stop talking about himself for so long that you wouldn't ride with him back.
Well, he does talk quite a bit about himself, but he never really asked me a lot about the business. He would just talk about his training routine. And because when you get on a trip, let's say a 3.5 hour trip, it can be very, very boring if somebody is not talking. And I've been in cars with guys that weren't good talkers. I would just go to sleep. But some of those trips were some of my best memories from the wrestling profession, because I had such a good time on some of those trips, because I had good conversation going, and some of the good conversationalists I was with, I'll tell you later.
So we actually got, this isn't Ask Dutch anything, of course, but this is quite salient to this bit of the news. So Todd B., Columbus, Ohio, wrote and says, "Hello, James and Dutch. I'm sure by now you've had a chance to digest Hulk Hogan's appearance at this year's Republican National Convention. How would you rate his speech?" Which we've already done. "But do you think it's wise for WWE personnel or legends to dip their toes into politics so strongly, regardless of political affiliation? And do you think this appearance was cleared by WWE before the fact?"
Well, I don't know why it would have to be cleared.
Well, I think he's still a WWE ambassador, I guess. I mean, because WWE welcomed him back quite a few years ago. So, I mean, it is a third-party booking. I don't know if it relates to WWE, if it has to be cleared.
You're going to be careful about politics. And what I hate about politics is that if you don't believe the same thing as I believe, I can't help it. But don't get hot at me. Because if you get hot at me, don't I have freedom of speech too, just like you do? So if you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me. But I would think with TKO now taking over WWE, and one of their main guys is Dana White.
Mm-hmm. Who also gave a speech.
And he gave a speech, and Linda McMahon was in the building that night. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think he would have any problem okaying it. I think they would say, yeah, go for it. Because I think it did get WWE a lot of exposure and a lot of coverage. And I don't think it hurt anything, really.
It's one of those interesting things where I believe this is true, is that and I know this from how many interviews I've done, the overwhelming majority of wrestlers are Republican, but the majority of wrestling viewers, or at least WWE viewers, are Democrat. I always found that quite fascinating, how there was a...
How do you know that?
I believe I read it a couple of years ago. It skews Democrat, the viewership. And my belief that wrestlers are Republican, or at least older wrestlers, is me interviewing over 100 of them, and they all are, basically. Yeah.
Well, I thought they were mostly Democrat.
No, geez, you must be joking. No, nearly everyone I've spoke to, who talks about politics, or maybe it's just Republicans want to talk about politics more. I don't know, but they're overwhelmingly Republican in my experience, and that's over 100 different people I've interviewed.
Really?
Yeah. So, because you mentioned,
would you say Kane is a Republican? He's really libertarian.
He's really libertarian, running on a Republican ticket. Yes.
Yeah.